I had this dream to build my very own log house. It's been the plan for a very long time, and you guys are always wondering why I'm doing quite a few things the way I'm doing and how, and let's get right into it. I think my answers are probably really gonna surprise a lot of you guys here because, like, honestly, I just had really absolutely zero business taking on a project like this. When I first started this, I just remember feeling so totally overwhelmed by all of the things I didn't know how to do and all of the things I had no idea how to pay for. I just really started to feel like I was waiting around for the day to come where I was able to do something like this. And what I realized was that I was really wrong. I just had to go for it. And I did. There just seems to always be 1,000 risks and reasons not to start something. It's always complicated. It's never all planned out. One of the moments I am the most grateful for so far, you guys, is I was up in the bush and like I said, I was just overwhelmed. And I said, like, I gotta start somewhere. It went from reading and then getting some practice and working with some timber. Like, these are things that happened already a few years ago now, before I even come out here. I just always knew that that was like my big goal. And instead of putting it off for later, that kind of moment, it was when I decided, it's gonna start happening. It's gonna be slow, but it's gonna happen now. And you know what? It was complicated then. I had no idea what I was doing, and I was absolutely broke. And now I'm sitting here, and I still don't know how to pay for everything. And of course, everything is still very complicated. But I think I'm far happier with where I'm at now, even though life is so chaotic, in the mix of this big project. But if I would have never went for it, I would probably be in the same place. I'm so much happier with where I'm at now. Like, I'm standing in my log shell, which still hasn't hit me. And I could have never made this video for you guys when I first started. You guys would have thought I was full of shit crazy. And that whole thing is kind of the answer to the biggest question I get asked, which is, why is this big log house sitting on a temporary wood stump foundation instead of the final full basement concrete foundation that it will wind up on? The real truth is, I just had no idea where this house was going to go when I started the project, and I really still don't know for sure. I don't own any land to put this house on, and you guys are probably hearing that thinking I'm crazy, which is okay. It may be even acceptable. The house can stay here. It might. It also may end up somewhere totally different, and I'll get to that a little further. Almost all log builders build their houses on stumps in their yards, and then they take them apart and then they reassemble them at the final location, and this is for a lot of really good reasons. One of the biggest is that it keeps the log so low to the ground. You can see here, I only got it about 12 inches off the ground, and in my final concrete foundation, the walls don't start till 5 foot. Like, the first log would be up here. And that is a hell of a lot of extra climbing, because in the process of precisely tracing and fitting these logs together, there are thousands and thousands of trips I've made up the ladder, and every single one of those trips would be 4 foot higher. And that is a cumulative effect that adds up to so much time, and it would be so much more unsafe up at that height, so much harder to reach up there. I wouldn't have been able to build as long as I did without the crane. So in that way, having it on these stumps has been a huge time savings, because when it comes time to set them up again, all the hard work is done. They just have to go back to where they were. Forgetting about all the other small convenient reasons of doing it like this, another huge reason was that it gave me a lot of flexibility with what I could do when I finished it. When I first started, to be honest with you guys, I even entertained the idea of possibly selling it if I had to, but that idea didn't last too long. Like once I started pouring my heart and soul into it, I could never ever sell it. But it gave me that option. Because it will be all taken apart and set up again, it can really go anywhere. And it gave me options, and it let me start this project long before I should have, because I could start this big dream before I knew how to pay for everything, like the foundation, the water, the power, and all that jazz, which otherwise would have had to come before I even set the first log. And log building, it gave me the option to work for it instead of paying for it. Every single log on these walls except for those two, I have cut and peeled and skidded and the whole works. I've harvested them all myself. And they're at a cost to me of a lot of sweat labor and, some mixed gas and, some fuel. But that's the beauty of it. Log building can have such a small cost barrier to entry. But where this gets funny is log building is not cheap. It's not cheap at all. It can be cheap or it can be many times more expensive, depending on the style of log building and what you're trying to do. Like this is handcrafted scribe fit. Buying something, like I just never could. I could not afford this today, not even close. But I've worked thousands and thousands of hours on it, and now I have it. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity to be able to, like log building has given me that opportunity to be able to work for something very expensive. But still, it's not cheap, like our time, you guys, it's got an hourly rate to it. Even if we're working for free, there's an opportunity cost to it. And it does take a lot more time. It can be a lot more difficult. And that's why buying a log shell like this one is a lot more expensive than your conventional house. It's just really justified in how long and the difficulty of the process of it. And that's always been my favorite style. Not just log homes, but the scribe fit. Like when I was a kid, I was fascinated. Like, how are they fit together? It's just always given me that wonderful feeling to look at, and the idea of it has just always been the dream. To me, they're just pure natural beauty. And my favorite kind of log home, I love it. So I'm doing this while I'm young, and my dream has kind of been around that. Like I just turned 23 here last month, because I think for me and most of us, our homes will be our biggest expenses in our life. And I really thought, if I could check that off the list as best as I can while I'm young, do as much of the work myself, then I would be putting my future family in a pretty damn good position. Like that's my goal, that's my dream. And have this house for kids to grow up in, and would be an amazing thought. It would be awesome. Even if it takes a few years for me to get done, I feel like I do have some time, 'cause I started young. And that makes a lot of things really simple for me, because I just don't have expensive taste, like at all. You would be amazed, you guys. I'm so content with that old 92 Dodge that I fixed up. Like, I'm very happy with it. I wouldn't probably drive anything else anyway. And that's the largest amount of money I've ever spent in one place in my entire life. Put me in a hand-built log house and old truck, and like, my taste is not very expensive at all. Like, I even have my own clothing line, like I don't even pay for clothes. Up until just recently, I know sometimes guys give me trouble. I'd hear there's holes in your pants, just wearing old hand-me-down Wranglers. I bought these new beauties there like a couple weeks ago because I wore them all out, but like I don't do anything else. Like this is what I work on and I invest in, and all my log stuff. That's it. What's fun for me is working on this and investing in this and the tools to do this. Like, that is my passion. And even though things are so seemingly difficult and complicated around this project with where I'm at now, I've also realized that as I get older, there will be other complications, although different, they'll still be there. They'll just never be an idealistic, there'll never be a perfect time. Like, for example, when I'm older, I don't think I could take the kind of risk that I've taken with this build, like while I have people depending on me later in life. I was staying out here in the camper and living off nothing and just working. Like, that's all I did. Working and putting everything I got, as much as I can, into this. It'd be a lot harder to do that with a small family and people dependent on you. I first came across that idea when I was living up in the bush. I realized, like, it's nice I'm young. I don't have a lot of these other complications that I would later on. Not to say that it's impossible at all. It's just that there's always a set of complications surrounding. It's never perfect. There's always reasons not to. But just, it seems no matter what. I love log buildings, and it's not just that, because I also love the process of crafting them. I'm not just trying to build this log. I'm trying to do more builds, and I want to keep building houses and whatever else you can think of, and I want to keep filming that and sharing that with you guys too. So it's like, it's this whole big thing, and it even gets further than just this build. And in many ways that makes it much easier for me to do a lot of these things the way I'm doing, instead of it just being a singular build for me. It would just be a lot harder to justify doing a lot of these things. For example, it was really easy for me to invest in my little crane, because I knew not only was it going to be awesome for this build, but for the next one, and the other things I was doing, and I didn't have to worry about trying to resell it after that the build is over. I keep it and keep using it. And the same goes for all the little tools that I've slowly saved up to buy. It's so much easier to justify spending a little more money and buying really good quality, more expensive tools when you know that you're going to be using them time and time again and get your money out of them, instead of, kind of saying, well, I'm only going to use this once, so I maybe buy the cheaper one, and then the cheaper one breaks, and, well, you don't know what to do with it once you're done with it, eh? And what I've really found too is that the exact same thing goes for learning everything for the first time. Like, as I'm sure, as you guys know, everything you seem to do the second time is so much easier than the first time you did it. Like, when it comes to log building and the complexity of it, I mean at every single stage of the build, so much of this process has just been me learning how to do things. It would be really hard to justify if I was only doing it once. It really is easier, it gives me a lot more peace of mind when I'm spending all that time doing it, because I know it will help me so much more on the next ones. Like, the next time is just gonna fly right by. When I built my cabin, little homestead up there in the bush, my approach was a lot different. I built things very quickly with a fraction of the thought, and that worked, okay and just fine dandy for what I was doing up there, building something, more rugged and temporary. But to be really honest with you guys, I never learned how to do a lot of those things properly. I never took the time to learn. I just slapped it together. And then now I actually have to do a lot of those things on this build, and I have to start, from zero. Like, I don't want to build to that same standard. I try and relearn and do everything properly. So I've kind of been down both of those paths, and sometimes it is really frustrating out here how slow things are taking. But in the meantime, then when I have to do it again, it's so nice to really have dived deep and not have to go through it every single time. I know everyone is always interested about the land. The truth is, I don't own this land. Now, I do pay rent because I have a small herd of cows. I have 11 cows, so I pay grazing rent. But admittedly, to you guys, it's not a huge amount of money because there's not very many of them. Now, the house can stay here, but I have a huge problem with that. And that is that it's far enough away here that the power is really expensive. So I actually got a quote here before I started, and it was shocking. I have really high confidence in the water because of the dugouts that are here. But yeah, that power is one thing that's a real holdup and one of my real concerns here. I do really like the spot for a lot of other reasons, but I just don't really feel that great about spending that kind of money. Like, I just don't want to do that on power. I need that money to put into the house. So I'm kind of always keeping the options open and seeing if anything comes up where the power is closer or established. It would feel a lot better. You would be getting a lot further to spend that money on land with power or cheaper power than to just blow it all on that power accommodation. And that's something, if you're building, you want to bring the power out right away, because in the process of building, it's so nice to have the power here and not relying on a generator, and you can plug your equipment in 40 below. And when I was living in the camper, you could just plug in the camper. You definitely want to do that, but that's been the big hold up there. So I've been waiting and saving up and trying to come up with a good plan around that, which will make you guys really nervous and think I'm crazy, but that's okay. I don't blame you at all. And I'm gonna have to figure that out right away. I desperately need a roof on this house to protect the logs. So right away, probably over the winter, I'm really working to figure that out. And you know, guys, if you haven't figured it out already, like, I'm just radically optimistic to the point where you guys are gonna think I'm crazy. And again, I don't blame you. I do have really big dreams on the go. This is a huge dream. It's been my life. And not only that, I am trying to become the best builder I can be in the process of this build. And I'm also taking the time, a lot of time, doing the best job I can, and really trying to put effort and research and invest in my videos and my whole channel. And I really hope that everyone's been enjoying the videos on the build, and I think so, because they're doing really well, you guys, and the channel is growing great, and that's a big dream of mine that I can hardly believe too how far it's come, and it's just been great, and I'm really grateful for that. Thank you guys for being with me. You know, and that's another thing, guys. I've been making videos for 6 years. Do you think it's got any easier? No, guys, like, honestly, I have no idea what to do at least half the time. And that's okay. Like, it just gets more and more complicated as things grow and evolve, and that's life. That's the adventure of it. That's the process. That's fun, and I've learned to appreciate. Nothing that actually comes easy is good. Some of my fondest memories are from the process. So I hope this video brought much more clarity to you guys about these questions that you have for me all the time. I hope it made the videos a lot easier to understand, and moving forward as I film the next stages too, I hope that makes everything make more sense, you guys. Follow your dreams. Go for it. It's fun. It's hard as fuck. It really is. It's always hard, but that's what oftentimes makes it so great. Like, okay, imagine this parallel universe where this was just handed in 1 second. It's just like 1 minute you didn't have it, the next minute you had it all. That would take the entire joy and adventure out of life. To me, that would be, in a way, awful. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and I really hope to catch you all in the next one. The next build video, probably building the roof trusses here. We'll see. I still got to figure that out too. Over and out, guys. I hope everyone's doing just great.